choose love. Cultivating compassionate action in a changing world. Thank you. So when I thought about what I need, and when I thought about what the world might need right now, this topic seemed so evident to me. How to choose love in all things. Yeah. So the structure of this 1 hour talk, I'll share the Plum Village teachings on the importance of love, love as an antidote to overwhelm, to fear, and to anxiety, and the practice of self-love. And we'll do that in breakout rooms. So let's go back to gallery view for a moment. So again, I want to acknowledge our beloved teacher, Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, to the Sangha worldwide, to the Vietnamese people who have created a Thich Nhat Hanh, and all people contributed to creating a Thich Nhat Hanh. To the ancestors, to the descendants, to you, to me, to the traditional custodians of the land on which we are now situated, to our Asian siblings, to the people affected by gun violence, to all of us who have been affected so enormously by COVID-19. So enormous gratitude, enormous respect. Thank you for being here. Now, let's go to the next slide, please. Yep. Okay. So last spring, I went on a very long walk, like 15-mile walk. And about 10 miles into the walk, I came to this place in the forest. All of the trees were blackened and scarred and broken off, many broken off. But yet the understory of the forest was filled with iridescent green and gold of young blueberry shrubs coming up out of the ground. And I paused and took then that moment and realized I am in the charnel ground. You know, the charnel ground, which has been written about in the Buddhist sutras. This is a place of paradox. It's a place of both death and a place of life, a place of destruction and a place of great beauty. And we are surely in a charnel ground of sorts right now, in a racialized and polarized world, a time of climate crisis, of global pandemic. And yet, this is a time of great beauty and a time of great joy. It is a yes and moment. So the next slide, please. When I think about the Plum Village teachings and practices, this is an image that comes to my mind. The ripple effect, right? You toss a pebble into a pond, the waves of the effect of that pebble go out to extend to the shoreline. And this is very much like these practices. They have a ripple effect in us and in the world, supporting our individual and our collective liberation. So during this talk, I'm going to be sharing from my own personal experience, meaning that this is a work in progress. I am not checking in as an expert. I am on a learning journey right alongside you, learning about love. You know, it's often said that a person teaches what they need to learn the most. And so I am definitely on a learning journey. So let's go back to gallery view, please. So Thich Nhat Hanh has written more than 100 books, and he's given countless Dharma talks. And all the books and all the Dharma talks say the same thing, that the energy and the practice of mindfulness, concentration, and insight can help us to embrace our suffering, to calm the body, to calm the mind, to be peace, to create peace in the world, to be love, to create love in the world. So you might be thinking, well, what does suffering and love what does suffering have to do with love? But any one of us who had lost a loved one, we know that love is here, grief is here, and love is here, that these are interconnected. And this reality became very clear to me yet again last year in particular, when my brother passed away, and then his wife passed away, and many other friends passed away. So our beloved teacher sums up this interchange of grief and love in 4 words, right? Kind of leave it to a Zen master to sum up like the whole teaching in 4 words, right? And those words are no mud, no lotus, right? No mud, no lotus. Suffering, happiness, they interconnect. Let's go to the next slide, please. So Thich has said that love is organic. Love is a living, breathing thing. Love is a living, breathing thing. So as members of the Plum Village community, we actually take a training on becoming aware of our suffering, to understand our suffering, to listen to it, to embrace it, to know the roots of it, to help us to suffer better, maybe less, and to support others. So as an act of compassion. So let's go back to gallery view. And in this global pandemic, mindfulness becomes like a vaccine for us to help alleviate the suffering. So these practices can help us to heal suffering. And this is what we'll be exploring today. So mindful breathing, mindful eating, mindful walking. So to live our lives in such a way that it becomes kind of like a form of art. And I can say unequivocally that this did not come natural to me, and I still struggle with this a lot. So I did a lot of running as a younger person, running from poverty in Brooklyn to undergraduate and graduate and law school, and the big and important job as a lobbyist and a lawyer with no time to breathe, constantly trying to assimilate into the white dominant culture, straightening my hair, trying my best to fit in. And then finding the community, the Plum Village community, and beginning to practice. And in 2004, attending the Colors of Compassion retreat in Deer Park, with hundreds of other people who identified as Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And I saw myself in the practice, and that was like a miracle. Fast forward, I eventually left that job and had to find a new identity, and so today my work is writing and offering these kinds of retreats and gatherings to foster greater compassion and greater love. So how do we choose love in the time of the charnel ground? And so this begins with some very basic practices, um, and the practice of self-love and self-care. So we want to begin with the basic practice of breathing. So step one, there's 4 steps. There could be many, many others, but we'll do 4. So step one is you breathe in. I know that I am breathing in. Right? As I breathe out, I know that I am breathing out. This is not an intellectual knowing. You don't need a PhD. This is a felt sense in the body, mind. Step 2, we follow the in-breath all the way through. We follow the out-breath all the way through. That's called focus. And in, an attention deficit economy, focus is a big deal. Step 3, we become aware that we have a body. And recognize that we have a body. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like a walking cerebellum, like cut off from the wisdom of my own body. So to know that I have a body. And then step 4, recognizing and releasing tension. This is a time of a lot of tension. And some of it can be very direct and some of it indirect. So noticing where I'm holding tension, where you're holding tension in the body, and gently releasing it. We can't will ourselves to relax. We can't will and force ourselves to release tension, but we can soften and open like a flower, gently. Not using a sledgehammer, like do it, but gently allowing the body to soften. So how about we practice just for a little bit, these 4 steps of mindful breathing. So we'll begin with the sound of the bell. Coming into a comfortable posture, whatever that means for you. Yep, if you want to roll your neck, stretch, whatever works for you. Head balanced over the shoulders, shoulders balanced over the hips, knees balanced over the feet. Take a long exhale. Release the breath. Breathing in, I know that I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. In, out. Breathing in, I follow the in-breath all the way through. Breathing out, I follow the out-breath all the way through. Following the in-breath, following the out-breath. Breathing in, I become aware of my body from the crown of my head all the way down to the bottom of my feet. Breathing out, I'm aware of the whole body. Aware of body breathing in, aware of body breathing out. Breathing in, I'm releasing any tension that I feel and calming the body. Breathing out, exhaling any tension and calming the body and the mind. Releasing tension as I breathe in, calming the body as I breathe out. So thank you for that practice. As we practice in this way, again, it's like arranging flowers. It's like cooking a lovely meal. It becomes an expression of life. Walking can be the same way. We walk without a sense of worry, relaxing the body, focusing on a step and our breath. We don't have to rush. We don't have to be focused forward. In eating, when we engage in mindful eating, we realize that eating is really one of the great joys of life, one of the great pleasures, to take in the taste and the texture and the people that help to contribute to the food in front of us, knowing that that meal, the food, piece of fruit, contains the whole universe. As we practice sitting, speaking, and listening, taking a moment to pause and relax the body, to open and attune to ourselves and others, to listen in this very deep way, attentively, and to speak truthfully with kindness. So there's many, many practices along with that. So let's turn to the next slide, please. Yep, that's a pot. So Thich has said that we are like a pot in search of a lid. We believe that our lid is somewhere else, and we have to look very hard to find it. We believe that somehow we're lacking. And this is really quite a deep conditioning with many messages that we receive all day long. We believe that we need someone else or somebody else to fulfill us. We see ourselves as a pot without a lid. So back to gallery view, please. So in Buddhism, love contains 4 elements. The first is Maitreya. And you know this already. I mean, if you feel love, there's a sense of friendship, right? There's a good feeling. There's friendliness. There's a sense of friendship not only with ourselves, but with the folks that we are in this sense of love with. So love by its nature is friendly. Karuna, compassion, right? The capacity to understand ourselves and the other person, and underscore the word and to help to remove the suffering from ourselves and another person. It's a both and. That's a big deal, to be able to understand our suffering and have the capacity to help alleviate the suffering within ourselves and another person. Upeksha, the third element, non-discrimination. Some people describe it as freedom. Yeah. We appreciate everyone alike. Left-leaning, right-leaning, short or tall. We practice this way of being. And it is a practice. Mudita. I even like the sound of the word, mudita. Joy. Many people call it sympathetic joy, having joy for our good fortune and actually having joy for the good fortune of another person. So in Buddhism, joy and happiness are different, but for the purposes of this talk, I'm going to be using them interchangeably. So many of us believe that we need certain conditions in order to feel joy, to feel happiness. Often these conditions are external, or they could be internal, right? We think if we get rid of one emotion that doesn't feel so good, like, for example, rage or anger, and replace it with something else, things will be a-okay. I don't know about that. But that's a way of thinking. Or if we get the shiny red car, that things will be a-okay. Or if we get the relationship we want, then I'll really be happy. So the practice in the Plum Village tradition actually is to take really good care of the rage, of the anger, of the fear, of the issues of self-worth and self-esteem in the very same way that we embrace and take very good care of our compassion and our patience and our love. Again, Taya said that love is organic. It is a living, breathing thing. We can grow that. We can grow love. We can grow compassion. Just the way we don't grow a beautiful garden overnight. It takes time, it takes attention. We can grow love. We can focus on the pot, the lid that's missing from the pot, or we can focus on the pot. We can generate the energy of mindfulness, concentration, and insight. So I want to offer a practice, quite beautiful practice, we call flower watering. And this is part of a larger practice of forgiveness and reconciliation called Beginning Anew. And this is a chance for us to recognize the specific instances when we did something or said something that we actually felt good about or admired in ourselves. For many of us, particularly under these circumstances of COVID, we're feeling quite isolated. This sense of under being kind of quasi-house arrest, a sense of lack of connection. And can be very, very difficult for us to see the positive in ourselves and the positive in others, the goodness in ourselves and the goodness in others. And actually, there can be a mental way of thinking that to even see that is immodest or somehow not good. We'd rather heap praise on other folks and not on ourselves. So we have this practice of flower watering, selectively watering the good and positive and seeds within us. And I've often said that there is this corollary for this practice in neuroscience, which Rick Hansen developed, called taking in the good. Taking in the good. And so Dr. Hansen and many others have talked about this. Our experiences matter. They shape us. Neurologically, they shape us. The food we eat, the conversations we have, the books we read, the podcasts we listen to, all of that, everything shapes us. We're constantly absorbing from our environment, from these Dharma doors of the body, the mind, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth. And so the practice in daily life is to take in the good that surrounds us, that is within you. And so the version of flower watering is a chance to selectively water the positive and take in the positive within us as a practice of love. So as we become more aware of the positive within us, that can generate the feeling of gratitude. And gratitude is actually a declaration. Gratitude relates to a sense of generosity. And when one practices gratitude and generosity, we're undermining the capitalist economy because we see ourselves as well-resourced. We're not looking for something outside of ourselves. So to practice generosity, to practice gratitude is a big deal. To take in these positives. And you already know this. You've been doing this for a very, very long time. Actually, when you were born, the very first thing that happened when you came out of your mother's womb is they lay you on your mother's chest. She looked at you, you looked at her. That was a moment of gratitude. It was a moment of generosity. And this incredible hormone, oxytocin, the love hormone, was released from your body, right? And so this hormone associated with trust and empathy and belonging. So this is something you know very, very well. So here's the process that we'll use for flower watering. We'll have some time, some quiet time, to write down, jot a note about our good qualities, the good deeds within us, what we are grateful for, what we may feel generous about, something that's present right now or maybe in the past. And just thinking about these good deeds, this generous quality within ourselves, just recalling them actually puts a smile on your face, like, wow, I did that. This is who I am. That's a thing. So as you write down your qualities, take a moment and read them. And this is the practice that Thai has taught us, to do, to write them down and to look at them and notice how you feel as you recall these positive qualities within. We'll then go into triads for 12 minutes, and our wonderful tech hosts will set up the triads. When you're in your triad, you'll select a timekeeper, and each person will have 3 minutes to talk about those positive seeds, those positive qualities, something you feel good about, something that brings a smile to your face. And after the speaker has finished their 3 minutes, speaking without interruption, the listener, the other 2 people, will have 1 minute to repeat to the speaker all the good qualities that they heard of the speaker, their kindness, their warmth. They're so trusting, they're so compassionate, like that. And the job of the person who spoke, and this is really hard, is to take in the good, to take in the good. And noticing the oxytocin that's being released through your bloodstream, as you take in these words. This can be very hard. Often when I do this practice, this is the hardest thing for people to listen to these good qualities and then believe that it's true. So that is the practice. So again, we'll have about 12 minutes. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak about their good qualities. And then the listener will have 1 minute to share. And the 2 listeners share that 1 minute, so equity of voice, sharing that time equally. And then the speaker's job, take in the good, take in the flower watering. There was a really cool slide on this, I think, tech host folk. So that is the process. And after each round, please be sure to thank your partners. And then we'll come out of the triads and we'll see how much time we have. Maybe we have some open space time. I've been doing a lot of talking and I want to hear other folks. So are there questions about the process before we turn to just a couple minutes of quiet time for you? Yes, please.
Valerie, I have a question on the technical side. So would that be 2 minutes for the first person, then 1 minute, then 2 minutes for the second person, then 1 minute, and then 2 minutes for the third person, and then 1 minute? Is that the structure?
Thanks for the question. So we'll begin with, let's see what time it is. Yeah, we got plenty of time. So let's begin with like 3 minutes of quiet time. You can use this time to meditate, but this is a time to recall the positive qualities within you. Notice what is arising, notice how you feel as you take note or write down these positive qualities. We'll then go into the triads. And we'll do 3 rounds in the triads. So that you'll choose the order of the speaker, first, second, and third. The first speaker will share their positive qualities for 3 minutes. At the end of the 3 minutes, those people who were the listeners will have 1 minute to offer these positive qualities back that you heard. I admire your courage. I think you're just an amazing person. I'm in awe of your practice. You know, that like that. And after the 1 minute of flower watering, we'll switch to the second speaker. And we'll go through that same process and then switch to the third speaker. So one invitation I have as well is when you hear those positive affirmations being said to you as you're listening, it's often very helpful to place your hand on your heart. And just doing this also can activate oxytocin in the body. So really taking in those positive affirmations. Kylie, is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful.
All right, so shall we go back to gallery view? And are there other questions about the process of what we're doing?
Hi, Valerie. I'm Allison, and for hers. And I did have a question. I noticed as the instructions were being explained, I've never done this practice before, so it's my first time hearing them. I noticed some internal resistance come up. And one of the things I've really been working on in my practice is honesty and integrity. And I found myself thinking and feeling there are positive qualities that arise and are accessible some of the time or much of the time, and none of them have felt accessible all of the time. And so I was thinking about sharing with
So Allison, unfortunately, something happened with your computer. I was noticing while you were speaking that the screen was flipping back and forth. So I'm hoping that was the technical difficulty could be corrected. Um, and so I would just offer the question was questions about the process of this. And one word, a very, very important word that Allison mentioned was resistance. So we practice with resistance a lot. We practice with resistance as a form of suffering. And of course, there is tremendous information in one's own resistance. That's very, very rich territory. And so the practice is not to resist resistance, but to recognize the resistance, which may have a very long tail and a very long story, and very rich, and to embrace, even if it's just a teeny weeny bit, that resistance. But the first step is to recognize that resistance is arising and how very rich that is, how potent and fertile ground that is. So I love the question, and that is one of my main practices, is working with my own resistance. So I've offered a long-winded response, but any other question about the process before we go into breakout rooms? Okay, great. So it's 11 a.m. East Coast time. Let's take, what did we say? I think we said like just two or 3 minutes of quiet time. You can have your camera on or off. You can simply meditate, but to recall your positive qualities. Yeah, if you want to grab something to drink and do so mindfully, whatever would support you. And then we'll be heading into breakout rooms. Tech host, do you have anything you wanted to? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say that when you are in your breakout room, we'll be sending the cues, the timing cues, and just know that it's written very small at the top. So you might have to, if you don't see it, it's okay. But just to let you know that the writing is small at the top of the screen, that will tell you when to switch.
This is Susie. I have you all in rooms of 3. If anybody doesn't want to be in a room or needs to get moved around, I can help you with that after we send you all to the rooms.
So then we don't have to pick a timer because, Kaylee, you're giving us the time? Not picking a timer.
Yeah, although feel free to use a timer yourself as well if that makes you more comfortable. But I will be sending you a cue as to when the time is switching. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing folks back.
Right. Right.
Welcome back.
Barbara.
Yeah, so how was that process of flower watering? So thank you for the practice. So we're about ready to take a break to do some walking meditation at 11:30 East Coast time. But before we turn to the practice of walking, and again, this is a practice of feeling your feet solidly on the floor or the ground, eyes open, noticing the environment, taking a step and a breath, and really being nourished by the moment, not having to rush or run or do anything, just taking in the moment as we walk. So you can practice walking, or you can stay in the main room and continue to engage in noble silence. So with that, I'd like to recap the path to choose love no matter what. Number one, there is the charnel ground and there is love. Two, the Plum Village practices have a ripple effect. They ripple within us and in the world. Love is a living, breathing thing. It is organic. 4, ask yourself, are you a pot in search of a lid? 5, mindful breathing supports our self-love. And finally, cultivate. Cultivate your garden. Practice flower watering every day. See the good in yourself. See the good in others. So I'd like to close this talk with a gatha, or a poem that I wrote. I was thinking a lot about love, and this is the gatha that arrived. In every breath you take, choose love. No matter what comes together or what is pulled apart, choose love. When life is flowing and when life is frustrating, choose love. When you feel alone and unsupported, choose love. No matter what you understand, and despite what you have yet to figure out, choose love. No matter what has been done to you, and whatever you have done to others, choose love. No matter what you're able to accept, no matter what you're able to forgive, choose love. On your worst day, on your best day, choose love. Today, every day. Choose love. Always, always, always. Choose love. So shall we listen to 3 sounds of the bell before we turn to walking practice? And the organizers may have some announcements. So thank you, everyone.
Val, we have a request for your poem. So wanting to know if you would be sharing that. Or maybe it's something we could share.
Really savoring and tasting each bite. That's just, it's such a beautiful practice. So I hope that you had some rest and respite and that was good for you. Trying to go back to gallery view. But anyway. So we're heading into now a practice of rest, mindful resting, deep relaxation. And our beloved teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, has said that resting is actually a precondition, not a condition, a precondition to our own healing. And every year I go to Spain, except last year, to walk a pilgrimage, a very old 1200-year-old pilgrimage called El Camino de Santiago. And some people on this call have been with me, Sherry and Bruce. And there's a wonderful proverb in Spain that goes, how wonderful it is to do nothing and then rest afterwards. How wonderful it is to do nothing and then rest afterwards. So this is a practice that we need desperately, especially today, to learn how to rest, to release tension that's built up in the body, to bring the body and mind back to a sense of ease. So I'll be inviting a practice for the next 30 minutes of deep relaxation, and that will be followed at 1:30 by some mindful movements by Camille. And then we'll go into our Dharma sharing group, I think. That's our schedule. Yes, our Dharma sharing groups. And then the second Dharma talk, little sitting, closing circle, and final bell. So that's the game plan. That's where we're headed for this afternoon. And to invite us into deep relaxation, I've brought my big bell with me. I'll turn my camera so you could see it. There it is. So many, many years ago, a friend who was an artist made this bell for me, and he said, "You're going to need a bell." And I thought, well, that's kind of an odd thing, but I went with it. And this bell has invited many people into deep relaxation. So please take a moment and find a comfortable posture, seated, or you can do this lying down. And take a deep inhale and exhale fully and completely. We know that by just exhaling, completely letting all the air out of the lungs, we actually activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So we activate the rest and digest, the calming part of the autonomic nervous system. So really just taking a few inhales and leisurely and slowly extending your exhales. So we'll begin with 3 sounds of the bell. And then I'll be sharing a practice from this beautiful book, The Blooming of the Lotus by Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh. And this exercise that we will be doing to guide us in deep relaxation is about connecting with our body. Coming into a comfortable posture. Allowing the head to be balanced over the shoulders. Shoulders balanced over the hips. Knees balanced over the feet. Allowing the spine to be in alignment. Noticing all the places where your body comes in contact with the chair or the floor, and giving your full weight over to that surface, allowing gravity to do all of the work. Gently scan your body from the crown of the head, through the front of the body, the back of the body, noting the sides of the body, all the way down to the bottom of your feet. And just taking note of what is present here and how you're feeling. Take a deep breath in and extending your exhale long. And twice more like that, breathing in through the nose and exhaling through the nose with a long breath. So we'll be hearing several phrases and then the sounds of the bell as I guide you and offer this deep relaxation. Aware of the hair on my head, I breathe in. Smiling to the hair on my head, I breathe out. Hair. Smiling. Aware of my eyes, I breathe in. Smiling to my eyes, I breathe out. Eyes. Smiling. Aware of my ears, I breathe in. Smiling to my ears, I breathe out. Ears. Smiling. Aware of my teeth, I breathe in. Smiling to my teeth, I breathe out. Teeth. Smiling. Aware of my smile, I breathe in. Smiling to my smile, I breathe out. Smile. smiling. Aware of my shoulders, I breathe in, smiling to my shoulders. I breathe out, shoulders, smiling. Aware of my arms, I breathe in, smiling to my arms. I breathe out, arms, smiling. Aware of my lungs, I breathe in, smiling to my lungs. I breathe out, lungs, smiling. Aware of my heart, I breathe in, smiling to my heart. I breathe out. Heart smiling. Aware of my liver, I breathe in. Smiling to my liver, I breathe out. Liver smiling. Aware of my kidneys, I breathe in. Smiling to my kidneys, I breathe out. Kidneys smiling. Aware of my feet, I breathe in. Smiling to my feet, I breathe out. Aware of feet, touching the earth. Feet smiling. Aware of my toes, I breathe in. Smiling to my toes, I breathe out. Toes, smiling. Aware of my whole body, I breathe in. Smiling to my whole body, I breathe out. Whole body, smiling. And slowly begin to deepen your breath, deepen your awareness. And slowly and mindfully bringing movement back into the body. Maybe rotating the ankles and the wrists, coming back gently. And if you're lying on the floor, slowly bringing the knees into the chest, holding on to the shins, awakening the lower back and the spine. Or if you're seated in a chair, stretching the arms up, inhaling the arms up, and with your out breath, the exhale, floating the arms down. And moving in any way that is calling to you at this moment. And now taking a moment to pause, recalling your intention, your aspiration, your volition, allowing your intention to wash over you. And know that it is possible to regain, to continue this sense of peace and the body and the mind with the breath by breathing in and breathing out. And again, stretching the body, lengthening, bringing movement, whatever feels comfortable for you. And making your way back slowly, very slowly, to a seated posture. Being gentle with yourself. So we have the delight of mindful movement.
We'll begin by firmly rooting our feet into the ground, to your floor, the earth. Really enjoying that steady stance and softening through your shoulders and a nice long spine if you're standing with us. Again, bringing the body and the mind together with an awareness of the breath. We'll begin with the first movement, just raising our arms up to our shoulder level with the breath in and lowering with the breath out. Breathing in and out. Enjoying the breath, enjoying the movement. And maybe enjoying a smile if that feels good. And we'll rest here, take a resting breath for a moment. And then we'll raise our arms up all the way toward the sky and stretch on the breath in, and on the breath out, lower down. In, out. And we'll stop here for a cleansing breath. And you can step your legs a little bit apart. And we'll begin by bringing our fingertips to our shoulders, elbows pointed out. As we breathe in, we bloom like a flower. Breathing out, smile. In, bloom. Out, smile. And then we'll rest for a cleansing breath. And next we'll bring our palms together into our front body and make a circle with our arms. So as we breathe in, reaching and stretching up toward the sky, as we come down, we'll breathe out, bringing our palms back together. And then we'll reverse, breathing in and out. In and out. And we'll rest here. For the next movement, you can place your hands on your hips. We're going to make circles with our head and our torso. So we'll begin by bending from the hips and breathing in as we rotate toward the right, making a circle with our head, and breathing out as we come back from the other side. And then we'll reverse. Breathing in and breathing out. Enjoying the breath. Enjoying the movement. And coming up to standing. Just noticing. And now we'll reach all the way up toward the sky and reach down toward the earth. You can bend your knees slightly, anything that feels supportive for you. Breathing in, reach toward the sky, breathing out, reach down toward the earth. Enjoying the breath, enjoying the movement. And let's come back to center and just enjoy a resting breath or any other movement that feels good. And then next, we'll point our toes out slightly. And this is a heel lift. As we lift up toward the sky, we can lift our heels, and lowering, bending your knees, you can keep the heels lifted or you can bring them down to the earth. With a nice long spine, breathing in, breathing out, maybe with a smile. In and out. And release. And come back to your center. Now we're going to put our weight into our left foot. We're going to bend the right knee as we breathe in and point the toes. Breathe out as you extend, pointing, breathing in and out. Feel free to have some support if that feels good for you. Breathing in, out, in, and out. In, enjoying the breath, enjoying the movement. Let's try one more each side. And release. Now we'll come back to the weight on that left foot. And we're going to create little semicircles with our feet. So extending that right leg out with the pointed toe, begin to breathe in as you create a little circle around, and breathing out as you come back to meet the other foot. And then in reverse, breathing in and out. And let's come to the other side. Enjoying the breath. Enjoying the movement. Enjoying this practice together in community. And taking a resting breath here. Enjoying your body, enjoying this time together. We're going to extend our legs out and pivoting this, excuse me, right hip out so that your toes face away, still facing the front. And as we move, we'll begin with a bending of the knee as we reach our arm up and down. You can actually bring either arm up. Raise the arm up toward the sky, bend the knee, and come down. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, enjoy the movement. Breathing out, smile. And let's come back to center and switch sides. Breathing in and out. In. Breathing in, stretching up toward the sky with a smile. Let's try one more. And coming back to center, walking your feet back in. And thank you for joining us in Mindful Movements. And Linda will invite a bell where we'll come back to our cushions if we aren't there already. Thank you.
Inhaling deeply and exhaling completely. And again, this is a day of practice. And one of the beautiful practices is extending the exhale. So if you find yourself in a panic, full of anxiety, extend your out breath. Just by doing that, we're activating the parasympathetic nervous system. We're calming down the body. And thank you, Vivian, for the book Breathe, because that's one of the things I learned. So anyway, I'm just passing on, learning, relearning, and unlearning. So we'll begin with 3 sounds of the bell. Dear Thai, dear beloved community, the title of this Dharma talk is No Matter What, Choose Love, Cultivating Compassionate Action in a Changing World. So the structure of this 1-hour talk, I'll be sharing with you the Plum Village teachings on love. Not romantic love, but agape love. Love that is selfless. Love that is unconditional. Love that isn't transactional, that I give this, I get that. But love for the good of society, for the good of another being. This is the love that Dr. King spoke about in Nonviolent Action and many other people. I'll also speak about the historical elements of love, the love on the historical level, meaning that love on the level of the individual human being. And then love on the ultimate dimension. So where there is non-self, there is no love and no hate, no birth or no death, no coming, no going, no after, no before. So this is not a form of spiritual bypass, but a very profound teaching on the interconnected nature of all things. And then, of course, we'll practice love. We'll have a practice of the Plum Village practice on love. And hopefully we'll have some time for your insights and questions. So a gentle reminder, and let's go back to gallery view, please. Just to recap what was offered in the first Dharma talk. So there is the charnel ground, and there's beauty and joy in the world, both and. The Plum Village practices have a ripple effect within us and around and in the world. Love is a living, breathing thing. It is organic. Ask yourself, am I a pot in search of a lid? Mindful breathing supports our self-love. And flower watering to see the good in ourselves, to see the good in others, taking in the good. And again, I want to acknowledge our beloved teacher. Everything I'm about to share has come from Thai and the community, and I have enormous gratitude. I also want to acknowledge the Vietnamese people worldwide, this community, immense gratitude. To the ancestors, descendants, my own identity as an Afro-Cuban person, the legacy that brings of people who have been enslaved and the enslavers, the traditional custodians of the land on which we are situated now, those affected by gun violence, directly or indirectly, our Asian siblings who've been touched by violence and discrimination, and all of us affected by COVID-19. So my deep support and my deep love. And all of this sets the context for the importance of love. You know, this topic can feel really overwhelming. I must have rewritten this Dharma talk 20 times. And actually, I'd been thinking about this Dharma talk and practicing with this a lot. So this is an experiment that I'm offering. It's very easy to become overwhelmed with the topic of love. It's so powerful, and there's a lot of habit, energy, and perceptions around this topic. And again, Thai has said that our life is our message. Our life is our message. And so I will be sharing from my personal experience, which means it's going to be messy, people. It's not neatened up. And just to give you an example of what I mean, that it's not neatened up, I met earlier this week with my spiritual mentor, my Anamkara, as John O'Donohue describes. And I said, you know, I'm giving this Dharma talk on love. And I said, I'm a person twice divorced, and I'm going to talk about love. Like, how cheeky is that? Like, what chutzpah? Who the heck are you? It's like, what's this? And then she stopped me and she said, well, you're perfect. So whatever. It's kind of like, here we go. So the next slide, please. We do have a slide, and it is coming. Oh. Does anybody know what this is? If you do, just come off mute.
Durian.
Who was that?
Jackfruit?
It's, or maybe Jack. I know it's durian. It's Vanessa. I lived in Thailand for a while.
Okay, figures. All right, yes, this is the durian fruit. And Thai has a lovely story that he tells about the durian in his book, Touching Peace. So the story goes like this. One day, Thai was practicing chanting alone in a temple in Vietnam. And there happened to be one durian on the altar that he had offered to the Buddha. And he was trying to recite the Lotus Sutra using a wooden drum and a large bowl-shaped bell for accompaniment so that he could concentrate. But he found it harder and harder and harder to concentrate because of the smell of the fruit. Finally, he decided to turn the wooden bowl over and imprison the durian so he could complete chanting the sutra. And after he finished, he bowed to the Buddha, and then he liberated the durian. And Tai said that if you really love him, then you wouldn't offer him a durian, some piece of fruit, this piece of fruit to eat. So this fruit, at least for me, is a really good example of one of the critical elements of love. And that is understanding. Let's go to the next slide. So Tai has said that love is another name for understanding. Love is another name for understanding. To love well, we need to understand well. We need to understand what the relationship requires, what the other person requires, what we require, what the other being requires. So let's go back to gallery view so we can see everyone. So several years ago, many years ago, actually, I was in the midst of an identity crisis. And in some ways I still am. That's another Dharma talk. I was shifting my career from a lobbyist lawyer to something else, becoming a Dharma teacher or something. And people would constantly say to me, you know, gee, you don't seem like a lawyer to me. And I would say underneath my breath, what the heck is the matter with her? You know, I just couldn't see what was happening to me as a result of being with the Plum Village community and engaging in these practices. I lacked understanding, and there's still do, and still in many ways on a very, very long journey of learning and growing. So I went back to graduate school and started studying theology and studied Christology and forgiveness and reconciliation in particular. And one of the things that we learned in studying forgiveness was the importance of empathy in understanding and in forgiveness. And here I want to lift up and underscore the work of Paul Elkind. And what the literature says is that, you know, to understand ourselves is the beginning of compassion, is the beginning of empathy. And empathy being the capacity, the ability to sense our own emotions and to imagine what someone else might be thinking and what someone else might be feeling. So-called perspective taking is another capacity, our ability to identify and understand not only our emotions, but the emotions of others as well. So empathy, like understanding, is not a theory. It's actually a felt sense in the body. And this goes to what Maya Angelou said, you know, that people forget what you said, they forget what you did, but they never forget how you made them feel. So in the Plum Village practice, in the Plum Village tradition, this is about cultivating love and understanding and empathy. And that begins with this quality of mindful awareness. So stopping, pausing, breathing, coming back to the body, to the mind, noticing what we're sensing and what we're feeling. And again, this may sound like, yeah, I got this. This is pretty simple stuff. But in actuality, we know that this is really difficult. And in these times of COVID, it's amazingly difficult because we are going against cultural and social conditioning. You know, the tendency toward autopilot, making meaning happening, meaning making even less available to us. You know, rushing and running, I mean, that's can be parts of my life. And then, of course, fractured attention, which is so devastating to our sense of presence. So if you go to the next slide, I love this quote attributable to Viktor Frankl, the Austrian neurologist and philosopher, that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So pausing to generate understanding, to make perhaps better choices. And this requires taking a step back, perhaps, to slow down. So contrary to some belief about what mindfulness is, this is not about bliss or never having a negative thought or never feeling upset, or the mind going offline. So how do we generate this love from within? How do we choose love? And again, Thai has written more than 100 books. He's given countless Dharma talks, and they all say the same thing. Pick up the first book, pick up the 100th book, you'll find the same exact message. And that message is to love is to be yourself, to accept yourself as you are. To know yourself is the first practice of love. And so that means we need to keep coming back home to ourselves. So Thai offered a way to know ourselves, a kind of self-love practice in the form of a mantra. It's a mantra that we can repeat to ourselves or that we can communicate with other people. And depending upon which book you read, it's either 4 mantras or it's 6 mantras. But we're going to focus on just the first mantra. And since everything is interconnected, if you get the first one, you've gotten all of them. So let's go to the next slide, please. So here's the mantra. Darling, I'm here for you. So I don't know if Mitchell is still on the call, but when we were in France for the ordination a number of years ago, we went to a small village, and at the side of a building, somebody painted this mural. Yes, there's wash hanging out, and I just thought it was so cool. So, darling, I'm here for you, is the mantra. It's hard to love if you're not there. It's hard to love if you're not there. So let's go back to gallery view. And most of the time, we're not there. So we're just not there. So this takes me to the work of Harvard scientist Matt Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert. They did a very powerful piece of research in 2010, which has been seminal work. It's a quite famous study. And in that study, these scientists revealed what is on the next slide. 47% of the time, we're not there. Can you imagine? 47% of the time, we are not paying attention or fully engaged with what is right in front of us. And what they found is that when we're not paying attention, we're not fully engaged, that actually we are activating a part of the brain that is associated with rumination and worry, the default mode of the brain. We're in a lot of thinking, a lot of worry, a lot of rumination, a lot of judgment, layer upon layer of judgment. I like this, I don't like this, perceptions, values, and beliefs. So let's go back to us and gallery view. So this mantra, darling, I'm here for you, is very, very potent. To be there is to be available. It is to be attentive. It is to be attuned. It is to be connected. It is to be generous. This is fundamental. To be there for another person is to choose love, no matter what. So, since this is about practice, shall we practice this mantra? So again, coming into a comfortable posture, standing or seated, and bringing your awareness to the body. Taking a few resourcing breaths, inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. Allowing the head to be balanced over the shoulders and shoulders balanced over the hips and the knees balanced over the feet. And feel yourself connected to the ground beneath you. Breathing in, I know that I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I am breathing out. In, out. Breathing in, I follow this in breath all the way through. Breathing out, I follow the out breath all the way through. Following the in breath all the way through. Following the out breath all the way through. Now, as you breathe in, repeating the mantra to yourself, you can place one hand on your heart, maybe another hand on your belly. Breathing into your hands, repeating the mantra. And repeat the mantra only when you're ready. Darling, I'm there for you. Darling, I'm there for you. Darling, I'm there for you. Take a deep breath into your hands and a deep breath out. So, and when you're ready, releasing your hands. Noticing, how do you feel? Allowing the mantra to penetrate your mind and your heart. Darling, I'm there for you. So this is love on the historical dimension. So choosing love, how do we choose love on the ultimate dimension? There is no love and no hate, no after, no before. So there is a very rare and beautiful story of Thai's first love. Some people may not know Thai was in love with a nun. And he recounts this quite beautiful story of falling in love as a young monk, falling in love on the historical dimension of love in his personhood. And both he and this young nun loved each other so very much, but they also loved the work that they were doing to support the Vietnamese people. And ultimately, it was their love for the Vietnamese people that led to their separation. Thai said that his love for this nun did not diminish, but instead, it was no longer confined to one individual. His love transcended the body to support hundreds and thousands of people in their struggle for equity and justice and freedom. He said that he transcended the notion of one person love and saw the ultimate dimension of love, which is faith, reverence, and trust. So this is love on a ultimate dimension. Love that is motivated for the benefit of all beings. This is a true power. So we know very, very well now. We know too well the teachings on interbeing. There is no mistake. No one is questioning this now. That we are deeply interconnected, that what happens in Wuhan, China, affects people in Burlington, Vermont. We know this truth deeper than ever before. So again, I ask, how do we cultivate compassionate action? This now is about action, action that is compassionate in a changing world. So Thai has coined yet another term, and that is engaged Buddhism. Buddhism that speaks to nonviolent, peaceful action done within community for the benefit of all beings. And many people, many people have spoken about this. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is another who's spoken about this power. And another hero, John Lewis. You know, right? Sometimes you have to get into good trouble. Right. So let's go to the next slide, please. Yes. Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful. Be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise, to get into good trouble, necessary trouble. Not all trouble is bad. So let's go back to us. So before becoming a Dharma teacher, as I've mentioned, my work was as a lobbyist and a lawyer. And one of the very famous statements by the former representative, Speaker of the House of the Representatives, is Tip O'Neill. And O'Neill said, all politics is local, meaning we begin very close in with the people that are right surrounding us, and closer still with ourselves. So very often I hear people say things like, I'm one person. What can I do? You know, what can I do about systemic racism? What can I do about Asian violence? What can against Asian people? What can I do about climate crisis? And so that's a legit thing. And I also want to acknowledge the wisdom of the environmentalist Bill McKibben, who said, the first thing that we can do is stop thinking like an individual, because it's that thinking that contributes to the problem. So I love the last few lines in a poem, and someone asked for a poem, so here you go. And I said, it's going to be a fragment. A poem by William Stafford. And the poem is a ritual to read to each other. Now there's a poem to read. It's called A Ritual to Read to Each Other. And we'll send that in the resources at the close of the retreat. So Stafford says, and it's in the chat, for it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. For it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. The signals we give, yes or no or maybe, should be clear. The darkness around us is deep. So I have a friend who volunteers at a polling station in her local area. And now Yvette's running for office. Like, what? It's important that awake people be awake. I have another friend who's an organic gardener, and she's reclaiming this whole area of a garden that's been abandoned. It is important that awake people be awake. I have a friend who writes soulful poetry. It is important that awake people be awake. I have friends who are reading and learning about systemic racism and structural racism and working to stop trans violence against trans people, I should say. It is important that awake people be awake. I have other friends who are challenging their beliefs around white supremacist thinking and learning what white supremacy means in their daily life. I never thought I would live to see the day where a president of the United States in his inaugural address would use the words white supremacist thinking. But here we are. It is important that awake people be awake. So we each can contribute. We each can take action. And together we can cultivate compassionate action in a changing world. Our actions are not for ourselves alone. They are for those who cause harm as well. To the violent mob that stormed the United States Capitol on January 6th, for those who perpetuate political polarization, for those who perpetuate gun violence, for all beings. This is how we individually, collectively cultivate compassionate action in an interconnected world. So, to recap, love requires understanding. No understanding, no love. Pause to generate understanding within yourself to make better choices. Recall the first mantra. Darling, I'm here for you. Get in good trouble, necessary trouble. And finally, it is important that awake people be awake. So let us return to our intentions. Yes, thank you. Let us return to our intentions. What is it that was your deepest desire? Recall that for a moment. Let it wash over you. So we'll conclude this talk with 3 sounds of the bell. Thank you for co-creating the talk. Thank you for your listening. So a deep bow to us all. And we're heading now into a period of sitting practice. But I want to check in with our organizing team and just see how they are doing. If there's any announcement or anything that you wish to say before we turn to us and sitting. Bowing out.
I'm fine. If you'd like to continue, or if any, I don't know if you need to call for a bio break or anything, or just keep going. Oh, maybe a 5-minute bio break. Is that okay? Okay, so it's 3:48. We'll meet back at 3:53.
Thank you. So we'll see you at 3:53. enjoy your break, stretch, get something to drink, maybe go outside, look up at the clouds. We'll see you in a few minutes. Rain. It's often a time of integration, and we can do this by sitting still and allowing everything that we've already done, practicing the mantra, all of these things to penetrate us, just like the rain penetrates a dry soil. So we'll have just a period of silent sitting, and then have 3 sounds of the bell to conclude our sitting. And at roughly 4 o'clock, we'll have our closing circle to share anything that's on your heart, sharing from the heart, listening from the heart. maybe a gratitude or a song, anything you wish. And then our closing bell and offering the merit, the fruit of our practice at 4:30. So 3 sounds of the bell to open and 3 sounds of the bell to close a period of silent practice. Dear Thai, dear beautiful community, this is Valerie bowing in. We're now in the portion of our retreat for our closing circle. This is a time to speak from the heart, listen from the heart, be spontaneous, meaning if you have a speech, you could defer it for another time, but really allowing whatever wants to come up, raggedy, unraggedy, or anything in between. And be lean of expression. We have many people, I think. I don't know. Well, anyway, we got a lot of people. So anything you'd like to say, please feel free to use the form if that works for you. Joining the palms, body, mind, connected, present. We bow in. We say whatever we wish to say. We join the palms again. We bow out. And then we know you've finished. And the next person, if they wish to, can share. I don't know if the organizing folk have anything they want to add to that. No? Okay, so bowing out, and the circle is open for our sharing.
This is Annie bowing in. I guess I'll just say briefly, I just want to celebrate this retreat and so much gratitude for Valerie's teaching and bringing Thai to us today and so many other spiritual teachers. And also just want to thank the organizers for the container that was held so beautifully. And I know a lot of us know how much work goes into that and how much behind the scenes work. And I just really am so grateful for all of you and all the time and energy invested in this. And I'm just happy to be with you all. Annie bowing out.
Cindy bowing in. I'm also.
Darling, I'm here for you. Darling, I'm here for you. Darling, I'm here for you. In every breath you take, choose love. No matter what comes together or what is pulled apart, choose love. When life is flowing and when life is frustrating, choose love. When you feel alone and unsupported, choose love. No matter what you understand and despite what you have yet to figure out, choose love. No matter what has been done to you and whatever you have done to others, choose love. No matter what you are able to accept or to forgive, choose love. On your worst day, on your best day, choose love. Today, every day, choose love. Always, always choose love. and offering the merit, the fruit of our practice. With a deep bow of gratitude, we offer the benefits, we offer the fruit generated by our practice today, being together, to all beings. May all beings know peace. May all beings know love. May all beings be safe. May all beings choose love. Thank you, everyone. No matter what, choose love.
Thank you, Valerie.